Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, How to Explode Your Business's YouTube Channel Growth. Our guest today has done exactly that, and he's had quite a year. So we're going to be grilling him on all aspects of YouTube growth and how you can be using YouTube for your business, whether or not you've already dipped your toes into the water with video or not. So I believe he is waiting to be brought on.
Hello. Hi, Tim. How you doing?
Ed, good to meet you. Thanks,
You
buddy.
too.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I've just moved into a new studio today, so it's completely empty. And for those watching live, you might see a dog running around, but don't be alarmed. It's just normal.
Lovely. I thought it was some sort of minimalist art background, but it is actually your real studio.
It's a completely empty room with loads of boxes on the floor and just two desks
Nice.
in right now. Moving day today, so yeah, bare bones.
Nice. Perfect metaphor for the loneliness that
Yeah.
YouTube can give us. So for those who don't know, and I think our audiences are probably slightly different, but for those who don't know you and the incredible stuff that you've been doing with Film Booth over the last year, perhaps you could give us a bit of an intro into what your background has been and what your business is really as well.
Yeah, sure. So I started out making marketing videos for businesses. So your audience was my old kind of audience mainly. So I used to work a lot with marketing managers and business owners, and we make a lot of short, snappy content for their wherever they wanted it. Really, it was like things like case studies to sort of short Instagram videos, things like that. But I realized I just didn't enjoy convincing people that they needed video. So I thought, and part of the marketing for the business at that point was we wanted to create a big organic following and wanted to work with people who we didn't have to convince to get in front of the camera. Maybe people who'd already made the decision, which YouTube made sense because people, generally try and make YouTube channels and YouTube content because they want to make videos, not because the boss has forced them in front of a camera. So yeah, I started uploading to YouTube, did that for sort of 18 months, 3 videos a week, realized I was doing it all the slow way, and then changed my strategy, changed the content, the effort I put in, and then the channel just grew and grew and grew. And then I actually left the production company back in October, gave my half to my business partner. So we still talk to each other and hand each other business. It wasn't like a fallout or anything. And now, I work with YouTubers around the world, and I help them with their ideas, their content, and there's like online workshops and things that they can purchase too. So yeah, I work with a lot of YouTubers all over the place now. And the great thing about it is I don't need to convince them that video is a good option, which in the business world, everyone's very skeptical. And I think when video blasted onto the scene ages ago, when internet speeds got fast enough, people from that day as business owners and marketing people have been told, oh, you need video. You've got to have video. And the stats are like, they'll increase conversions 84%. And I tracked that stat back once, and it was something like 10 years old for when video had just pretty much started. And it's like, it might have increased conversions by 84% when it was a novelty and everyone clicked play on it. But a big problem that businesses have is they used to make a lot of video and no one would ever watch it. So that's where I am up today. Is I do work with a lot of YouTubers who are businesses. So it still is marketing for most of my clients. It's just slightly different.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear how attitudes to video have changed. I think we'll kind of touch on this today. But your own channel growth, I mean, since June 2021 has been quite extraordinary, right? You've been picking up a couple of hundred subs a week, and then from July it seems to have blown up, thousands and thousands of new subs per week, and you've had quite a year, it looks like.
Yeah, so it's like I said, I changed my strategy and the total content I was making, and I think it's about 20,000 subscribers a month, which, look, most people who start YouTube quit. So I'm not excited by the subscriber count so much. I would say my subscriber count can sometimes represent a graveyard in terms of so many people try it and then think this is too much work and they don't. So, what I'm more excited about is active viewers, return viewers who come back to the channel. And I try and keep that as close to my subscriber count as possible. And to me, the 28-day return viewer count on a channel, which YouTube gives you this data. That's your actual following size. So I try not to get caught up too much with subscribers, more the views and the return viewers, because that's the strong community. For me, that's what marketing's about.
Got it. Cool. So we do have live viewers watching as well. So let us know where you are tuning in from today. And if you've got any questions for Ed, then do drop them in, and we'll jump into some Q&A either as we go, if they're contextually relevant, or we'll save some questions until the end as well. This is a really good opportunity to grill someone who has done some really fantastic stuff on YouTube over the last year. So we're going to break up today's episode into a couple of different areas. So we're going to have a lot of people watching who are your kind of old audience, the ones who you might have to convince that video is important to them. So we're going to talk about YouTube for businesses and what sort of businesses should be playing with YouTube and how they can do it in a way that actually generates revenue. And then we're going to grill and dive into some of your YouTube growth stuff that you've figured out personally over the last year. You mentioned there that you changed up the format that you were making your videos, and I know you changed your sort of targeting strategy as well. So we'll talk about that in a bit more detail. You've clearly studied YouTube a lot, and it's clearly a passion area of yours. And I know that you've mentioned in previous interviews that you've kind of gone all in with YouTube and become a bit of a kind of YouTube geek and become a bit obsessed with it. How important do you think that is to get the sort of growth that you've seen over the last year?
Probably very, if I'm honest. Look, the growth thing is kind of confusing because I'm not in a. I'm in a niche. I teach people how to grow YouTube channels. So there's a lot of people there. If you look at it in growth terms, if I'd gone into a general niche and I'd wanted to make entertainment content, the growth wouldn't be particularly extraordinary in terms of, there's lots of channels who just appear out of nowhere, they crack it and they make tons of content. But no matter what, you generally find the people that do that, even if they're in general or specific niches, they're obsessed in terms of it's pretty much their life. And then every penny they get back, they kind of seem to reinvest to try and keep improving it. And this kind of is one of the problems for businesses in particular is there's not many marketing teams who are willing to sit up till 2 a.m. on a Sunday, analyzing and researching YouTube. It's not part of their contract. So there is that element.
And I mean, exploring any social channel can be an intimidating thing for a marketing team, right? Because you have to put in a lot of effort at the start when it feels like you're getting nothing back. But YouTube perhaps is the social channel with the highest barrier to entry, because you can't just put together a quick text post. Like making video is difficult, particularly if you're committed to making it good. So I guess businesses watching could see this in two ways. They could see it as YouTube's going to be very hard to get traction with and hard to get success with. So therefore, I'm not going to go there. But on the other side of it, it's going to be much harder for their competitors to replicate any success that they do have, right? This is the shoe sales people going into the forest and they say, oh no, this is terrible, don't send any shoes here, nobody's wearing shoes. Or the other one says, well, send lots of shoes, nobody's wearing any shoes. So I suppose that there's a bit, first of all, we're not denying that going into YouTube is going to be hard work. It is going to be hard work, but that can also be a competitive advantage, I guess, if you're willing to put that time in.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of businesses maybe don't, is because there's maybe easier ways, if they've got budget particularly, to sort of just put into ads to get a quick return. Probably that is you turn the ads off, business slows down. I think the beauty of YouTube is, but ideally it's organic. You create a community that really highly value you and are interested in what you have to say and keep coming back. And traditional marketing, doesn't necessarily do that. So I'm not going to sit here and say this is easy. It's not. It's the hardest platform in the world to grow a following on, without doubt. It's only for the brave. TikTok, these other places, you can grow really quick, you can get tons of reach. But you got to look at the data and see what's right for you and where your audience are at. And actually, not just where your audience at. And this is what I've said to people before when they said, what platform should I use? And like, use the one you find yourself on accidentally. When you wake up in the morning and you're on your phone, even though you shouldn't be, what social media platform are you just on? That's the one to focus on, because you're just giving it the time without even realizing it. And if you're never on YouTube watching YouTubers, because you have to study it like crazy, it's probably the first sign that it might not be right for you or the marketing team. So I say do that first, and then make sure the audience are there. Which, to be honest, most of these platforms now, there's so many people on. TikTok, they say it's for younger people, but there's a lot of older people on it still. There's still millions to talk to. So then think about where the audience are at and what you want from it. How much time do you really have to dedicate to this? The answer is an hour a week. Don't bother. If the answer's 20 plus, or we've got a team that can help, then as a business, it's more realistic, because a lot of people who are YouTubers who are not necessarily businesses to start, they work and then they come home and they do their YouTube stuff and then they do it on the weekends. So they've almost got 2 jobs, and that's kind of what it requires.
So I know that a lot of marketing managers or marketing teams listening will say, okay, great, we can find that resource, or we can justify that resource allocation if we see that there is potential with YouTube, or if we know that, if you put in that time, it's going to feel thankless and dead for a month, 6 months, a year, but we're going to make it pay over the long term. It's impossible to make that prediction up front, but I guess what sort of businesses do you see most benefiting from getting YouTube right and investing the time and energy that they need to in order to make it successful?
So the guys that get it right, they don't need many views. Like, I have a client who gets 400-500 views per video, and his YouTube channel generates $3 million a year. So that's all he does, is his YouTube channel. And then he works with his clients. So consulting, if you pass on information, that's one of the easiest ways to get a return in terms of super niche. It's absolutely fine. You just need to make sure your information and your content's good, and actually people can get an insane return without gigantic followings. And that's one of the big problems, and why I'm always saying to people, like, subscriber means nothing. Like, I've met guys with 250,000 subscribers who can't pay their bills. And then I've met someone with 16,000 who's earning millions every year. So it's really not about view number. It's about finding the right community. And then once you're in there, providing tons of value. So that's the first type. You then got, Red Bull, probably the biggest example. So they just don't make adverts. They just make content about extreme sports, and it's almost like they sponsor their own channel. So on the upper end of the market, that's one way of looking at it, right? It's like, let's just make entertainment or even education that's interesting to our viewers, never really ask for any sale, but kind of be like the sponsored side of it. And then you had brands like Blend Tech, which is his old YouTube channel, and they sold blenders, and they just used to film themselves blending iPhones and PlayStations, and they went viral all the time. So it's easier for some people to get a result there. Some types of businesses, if they want to use it, they've got to think, how do we make this platform work for us? Because if you just put videos about talking about your product or just selling, it's never going to happen. Like, that's never getting pushed. No one wants to watch that. No one comes to YouTube to watch that kind of content. So outside of, if you're giving information as part of your service, or, that's what people come to you from, it can be a little trickier, but it is definitely possible. And like you said earlier, the ones that crack it, the competition can't, or they get too far ahead. So it's not for everyone. I'd say B2B, it's very tough. B2C, a lot easier. Yeah. Unless you're working with, as a consultant sort of side of things, and the B2B things, business to sort of working with entrepreneurs in particular, trying to target marketing managers or facilities managers or specific roles. That's not easy. And I've seen a lot of people fail and give up because they just don't get the views or YouTube to push them to the right kind of people, because it's too specific. And also they're not necessarily on YouTube either. So yeah, you have to have a think about it first. For your B2B, most people are just better off on LinkedIn. Yeah, it's really interesting. Obviously, our audience is marketing managers, and one of the conversations we always have is,
Interesting. One of the conversations we often have is it can be so tempting to go the route of making videos for views versus making videos for your perfect potential customer. And if I think about your consultant example there, you get 400 to 500 views per video, but that kind of sustains the marketing of the business. I'm assuming that their angle in their videos is highly tuned to their perfect client and the information that they want to give that perfect client, right? Rather than just trying to maximize views and hope that the halo effect brings them visibility with their perfect client.
Yeah, they can still get more views. That's why I talk to them in the way they position their content. So they might have a community of, say, 200,000 people in the world they can work with who are on YouTube. There's going to be way bigger outside of YouTube, but those people just say they're on YouTube. So it's like, okay, how do we get them all to discover us and to watch every video we make? Which means coming up with titles that are more interesting. Or how do we catch people when they're new to this industry? How do we get them in first? How do we keep the beginners happy and the experts at the same time so that every video we make gets clicked by all of them and they all get value from it? And that's the dance. And sometimes it's not possible. So you might have conversion content. So again, one of the tough things about what I do is I get judged on my views. So sometimes I'm not making a video for views. I'm making it because I think this is a really good video in terms of people who are further down the funnel. I'm not looking to create awareness. I'm looking for consideration and sales. And, I'll go, well, I'm going to sacrifice the views. I'm going to make the title more specific to the kind of clients I want to work with, as well as the content. I'm going to make it more detailed. So it's not necessarily right for the people that aren't right for my service. And then, you do get a hit, but then you get people with 15 million subscribers contacting you going, wow, that was great. I've never heard anyone say that before. And it goes over the heads maybe of the people who are just new, which maybe weren't quite right for the content. So you can use, what's interesting about YouTube is you can really, it can do the entire sales funnel for you in terms of awareness. You can get pushed out like crazy. The content's great for bringing people back in terms of consideration. Then it can generate sales simply by just leaving links or just saying you had something to sell in a video. And then you can actually create, fans and advocates from them just watching your content anyway, or, emailing them as clients and being like, don't miss this week's video. And then the relationship they build with you, it's totally possible to not need anything else. You don't even need a sales team when you've got YouTube. You can completely cut out any sales. People just can buy from a link, and that goes up to quite high. Once it gets high ticket, often they say the sales team can come in and they need to help out a little bit. But I think a good copywriter on a well-designed landing page could actually help to cut that down, as well as the content, because people just get lost in long form and they build so much value. So yeah, it can be a beast. Like we said earlier, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. I think one of the things that we've noticed from our own journey on YouTube has been that the relationship that you can build with a potential customer on YouTube is so deep and so intense. It trumps, we've had people who would listen to 6 hours of an audio book or read a whole series of books or follow emails for years and years. But none of that competes, podcasts as well, but none of that competes with the sort of face-to-face relationship that people seem to build through YouTube. And I don't really know of any platform that allows such an intense, albeit fictional and very one-sided relationship to be built at scale with an audience. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, it's everyone's experience. I'm constantly getting clients who are leaving Instagram and are like, I've got 1 million TikTok followers, but I can't get any business. And I've got 10,000 on TikTok, and it's where everything's on YouTube, and it's where it all comes from. And they're just sort of like, it's just long form content. If it's well made, you can take people on a real journey, and you just provide more value. And it's, YouTube's really well structured for keeping people there in terms of like they're constantly suggesting new things for you to watch. So the second you make someone laugh or smile or make them feel something in a video, and you do it multiple times in a video, they're going to bond with you more. So it's not, I guess the idea, it doesn't want it to sound like manipulative, this, because that's not the idea. But in terms of platforms, Yeah, YouTubers generally have a completely different relationship with their audience, and because there does seem to be a lot of value there, from what I've seen anyway.
Yeah, I suppose like, yeah, like watching a long form video where you're pretty much face to face with someone is probably the closest, the closest thing to replicating real life. Then the barrier to entry for people who are getting started or who want to take their YouTube game to the next level can feel really high. Compared to TikTok, where phone and production value is low and that is acceptable. On YouTube, it really feels like you have to compete, or it can feel like you have to compete. Super HD video, nice lighting, all of this type of stuff. In your opinion, how important is it to have a really high-end setup to getting traction and building credibility through your videos?
So the setup thing's an internal issue people have that takes them back to their childhood, the fear of being laughed at. So let's say you're new to video and you watch yourself back and you hate it. You don't like the sound of your voice. You don't like the way you look. You are, you feel a little bit embarrassed and people might be laughing at you, even though you might be fine. So one of the first things people tend to splash their money on is the setup. If the setup looks good, they'll think I'm legit, and it makes them feel like they're less likely to get laughed at. And what you find is the big YouTubers who do have fancy cameras, a lot of them have setups, they put minimal effort in. There's mess in the background, and there's others that put tons of effort in. So really the setup is important for you if it makes you feel confident, and if it makes you come across better, and if it makes what you think your video is better. Because then if you are confident, you're going to come across so much better on camera, you're going to enjoy the process more, and you're going to be able to withstand the pressures of YouTube. So at the same time, can't look so bad that it sucks, in terms of like people click it and go, oh, what was that shot on like a 1980s camera? Because the standards are there. But I think a lot of people confuse quality content with high 4K video. That's not it.
Yeah.
It's what you're saying. It's the story you tell. It's how you piece it together. It's the tricks that you use within your content to make it more interesting. That's what matters. And weirdly, because I'm in a new studio at the moment, I was researching, okay, what do I do with this thing in the background? And I went and looked at a load of the production experts on YouTube. Most of them just have a plain background with a desk in front. And a lot of them don't even seem to be in their studio at all anymore, because they're getting out and doing stuff, which makes the videos even more interesting. So don't get caught up on it. Do what's easy for you. Do not buy the best camera. Like the camera I have, which I'm not filming on right now, just annoying. Bigger files means I need more faster computer, which means I'm filming and I'm like, hang on, why is my SD card run out? Oh, of course, the files are bigger. So it gives you more professional problems the more expensive your camera is. If you want to get one that you could probably live off on YouTube forever, you can get like a mid-range Sony, like it's something called an A6400, which I'm using right now. And that's like £800. And you really don't need anything more than that. So that will give you a ton of room. And then a mic, again, these things don't cost that much anymore. You spend a couple of £100 on that, and then a light or two. That's it. But the problem and the thing and the issue for beginners is the more time you spend on trying to muck around with kit, the less time you have to make better content, better stories. And for me, that's where your focus should be. So find a setup that's quick and easy for you, that makes you feel good, and then work on everything else.
Great advice. Great advice. Okay. And I think the other sort of side of that is that people can focus on like you said, they can focus on the setup to try and shift some of their own insecurities about how they look or how they sound. And everyone hates how they sound, right? Everyone hates how they look. You never learn to love it. You just learn to become numb to that hatred, right? Or is that just me?
Some people do love it. They like watching themselves back. It bothered me originally, but that's when I used to look at myself and see things like I looked nervous, or to the average person, I would pick up on the things. I would pick up on the insecurities that I felt that other people might not have done. It doesn't even register in my mind anymore. It's like, I don't know. It's just zero concern. In fact, it's gone the opposite. I need to make sure I've not got toothpaste down my top when I'm filming, or I've, my hair's not all over the place, because I've literally stopped caring that much. So you do get over it, and actually it makes you a more confident person. I tell you what, if you've got someone in sales, getting them in front of the camera, it's great, because it starts to teach them how to think on their feet. So we used to find that when we put business people in front of the camera, they'd be like, oh, my rapport's getting better. Like when a client gives me a difficult question, I can think without, my mind running off, and I'm more composed because they've got used to the skill of being on camera, where when you're trying to present, that's kind of what you need. Most people, when they hop in front of a camera, will find that their words just don't come out their mouth, and it's really hard to talk. And once that solves it, other areas of your lives improve too, in terms of like your own body language and your confidence, or the way you look confident, but maybe you're not.
Right. That's really interesting. We, one of our consultancy team makes a lot of videos. It's part of their work for clients, is that they do these video marketing reviews that we do for people. So they send us their websites, and we do this video review of their site and their marketing, and show them how they can get more leads and stuff. And we find that almost unanimously, when people come in, they're very confident, and they can be quite confident on the phone. They can be confident in an interview scenario, but you give them these marketing reviews to do, and all of a sudden, as soon as there's a little green light on their MacBook camera, it's like they doubt everything. Oh, this is going to be recorded. Like there's lots of ums and ahs and vocal tics. They forget things that they would have had no problem saying in sort of everyday conversation, but it becomes a real issue for people. And maybe you can help us with the training, but we find the only way to get through this is just to bang out reps. Just do 2 or 3 weeks of this, just over and over and over again, until you sort of forget that little green light is on, and you just become used to being filmed. Have you got any sort of tips to help people become more confident on camera?
Yeah. So I figured this out for myself with public speaking. So public speaking, I hate. Terrifies me. Camera's fine because I edit my message. Like I'm not the most refined person when it comes to sort of riffing, in that I'll say stuff that get me in trouble. I'm too blunt. So I had to do. We did a video on this years ago. It's to do with your conscious and unconscious mind. So have you ever driven a car in France that's manual?
Yes.
So you go in the UK. Our steering wheel is on the right hand side, and if it's a manual car, the gear stick's on the left. If you go to France and drive one of their cars, it's the opposite way around. And what happens is when you get into the car, it's almost like you just can't do it. You just panic. You're thinking, oh, and then I've got to look at the road, and I've got to look at the thing that shows you what's behind you. I can't remember what it's called.
Rear view mirror, yeah.
So we automate driving in our brains. The problem is the moment we focus too hard on it, it comes forward to our conscious mind. So when you automate something like riding a bicycle, it's tough to start. And then when you've automated it, it goes back into your unconscious mind, which basically requires no thought. And it's why people choke as sportsmen. It's why they make silly mistakes in finals, because they're focusing so much. They've brought a skill that was in their conscious mind when they were 4, sort of back to life again. And this is what happens with presenting to camera, right? So when you're chatting to someone, and this is why people are like, oh, I'm great when I'm talking to clients and stuff. The second the camera turns on, it's like, yeah, because you just need to leave that thought in your unconscious mind. So the best way to get over it, and I had to do this for a best man speech where I learned the entire thing off by heart. And before I did it, I was just like, I know you know this. Do not think about it at all. Just let it go, like breathe, relax. And the whole thing came out, no problem. I think it was the first time ever I've not like choked on a stage or got something wrong, came flying out. But you just have to stop panicking, basically, because you're using the wrong part of your brain.
Yeah.
So the people that come in the most relaxed, those are the guys that can just riff and get it out. But the second the light comes on, it's like, oh, I have to get this right, this thing I'm thinking about. And you're using the wrong part of your brain. I'm sure the scientists out there will give you all the correct terminology for it. I just simplified it down into the right part of your brain and the wrong bit. But that's basically why.
Yeah, I think it helps to know your stuff as well, doesn't it? It helps to, like, when you'd internalize that best man speech, so that you could stick the content in the kind of unconscious bucket. So you just have to do one thing at a time, right? You just have to focus on the delivery and not the memory and stuff like that. That's right. Probably
But the best thing, and this is why I tell everyone, and no one ever wants to do this, but is just get an auto cue. Just spend the time writing the script. And then when you present and you've got a teleprompter in front of you, these little mobile phone ones you can get and just attach to the camera, which is what I use in every video. All you need to do is focus on your delivery. And I don't even know what I'm saying half the time when I'm presenting. I'm just focused so much on the delivery and getting the next line out. And that solves the problem. Yeah. And when we started our production company, we specifically didn't have scripts, because what we found was people used to come in with awful scripts and it would take us forever to edit them down so they worked. So we said, I'll just come in and riff, and we used to help them up on the spot. And, you know, a 3-minute video would take an hour. Then we just gave them a template eventually once we figured it out for writing a script. They'd come in with it written, and a 10-minute video would take 15 minutes and they'd be better on camera. Right. They'd enjoy it more and move on. So, you know, do all of the hard bit before and then use an auto cue, and you can just record little chunks. I record like a line or two at a time, and then there's a little gap, and I'll do it again if I want more energy. Otherwise, I'll just roll on.
Yeah, super interesting. I want to ask you about YouTube for brands. So we do a lot of analysis of brand digital marketing. And one of the things that we've noticed is YouTube seems to be one of the hardest channels to get right. You've mentioned Red Bull and Blendtec as two brands that get it right, but there are quite a lot of brands that you think would be really good on YouTube. I'm thinking of people we've analyzed recently, like Patagonia, Pretty Little Thing, Quooker. They really seem to struggle with YouTube and end up just using it as a kind of depository for just promotional videos. They don't really get any organic traction, and super low views. Even brands like Gymshark have been through periods where they grew really well with YouTube and then just seem to have lost their way completely, and then they're finding their feet again. Why do you think this is such a difficult channel for larger companies and brands to actually get right?
Well, no one starts off good. Even if you've got, you know, a lot of them will probably be bad advice given to them. Probably won't have given. I will have significantly underestimated how hard it is to make good content. So they're going to put a video out and go, maybe not think that they're happy with it. Then they're going to look and go, I've got 12 views, and our ad we just put out got 1 million. And then the CEO or the person who's looking at the KPIs will be like, even though I said I'm going to give you 6 months to, you know, with no expectations, after a month, where's all the business? Because that's what they do, right? They set these 12 months time, we want to see this. We're okay with you not getting any results until then. And then the reality is they want results instantly. So that's what I tend to find, was that they're not making the right stuff to start off with. They're often, the strategy and the idea of what to put out is miles off, which means they then make these videos that would never have stood a chance anyway, that they could have invested a ton into. And then they might be looking at it going, this is just too much like hard work. Or the other side of it is, then we just might go, we don't need all that effort. We're doing fine, you know, growing organically through referral, or our ads are doing really well, or our email list is great. So the bigger ones have often wondered why they don't continue doing it, or even try. But I think, you know, The Rock used to have a YouTube channel that he used to put a lot of effort into, and he just stopped, went to Instagram, and now it's like one of the biggest Instagrams on the planet. So maybe it just worked better for him. And I guess you have to trust that the bigger brands know what they're doing when it comes to marketing. So they've probably just got ways that are easier and get better ROI, which is what it's all about at the end of the day, right? They're not sitting there going, oh, we want to change the lives of people and teach them how to learn, you know, the right way to do accounting, the thing, which is what a lot of like individuals start off on YouTube. Like they genuinely really want to help. It might just be a bit too numbers focused at the top. And a lot of YouTubers will tolerate the pain and the slow growth because they actually feel like they're doing something good. There's like a charitable side to it. And that's one of the best things about it, is I get an email from someone going, you just changed my life with your videos. So yeah, there's a few things. Just hard, and time suck and expensive is probably why a lot of them don't bother.
Yeah, you mentioned that individuals, and it can't be ignored that most of the most popular YouTube channels are fronted by an individual, right? And it seems like on YouTube, people have a connection with a single person. And obviously this is going to be quite concerning for a brand that wants to go into YouTube. Like, do we need a front person? And what happens if that person leaves, or what happens if that person starts their own channel or something like this? So what's your feeling on how important it is to build a channel around an individual versus can you build a channel around a team, or can you make it completely sort of faceless and sort of brand safe, if you like?
My advice would be don't build it around an individual. Like, I don't want Film Booth to be built around me. It was never supposed to be. It's supposed to be a thing that became multiple people, and it was 2 of us to start. And I don't know why people think it needs to be one. And I know that people like bond with the individual, but I believe what they actually bond with more is the stories and the way the content makes them feel. And I think we've got 2 channels in particular that do this really well. So there's a channel called Think Media, and that was a guy called Sean who started it years ago. And now he has a team of 4 other people on his channel making videos. And I'm sure he went through, oh, what if they don't like him? It's the opposite. Like, I watched one of them and I'm like, oh man, really like massive respect to the guy called Nolan. I just always loved watching his content. And I was just like, I prefer him to Sean in terms of watching his videos. It's no disrespect to Sean. Like, he's amazing what he's done, but it gives you the opposite problem. It's like, well, hang on, what if there's 4 people who they prefer to me? Oh, maybe I'm not needed anymore. What if I'm getting in the way of my own channel? And I think Parker Welbeck is another channel that's done this amazingly well.
Yeah.
The team he has doing his content, I love watching their videos. I don't care if it's him. I don't care if it's them. So you could start as a business with 4 presenters, and then that eliminates these problems. And there are people doing this that I speak to. And it means they can put out a lot more content. They can have different people. So you might say, okay, well, we need a lady and we need a man. Because my channel's me, right? And my audience is really male heavy. It's not like I'm making content for men. That ladies just don't resonate with me as much. So we might find that someone else in my niche who is a lady might have more lady viewers, right? So, brands in particular who want to be really inclusive, they can bring in other races. They can make their marketing include more people from the people that are presenting. So I think, and I said this on a live stream the other day, I was like, I don't know why people want to start YouTube channels on their own. The smartest thing would be to buddy up, have 2 of you. So one can learn editing, the other one can learn the filming, and that way there's, 2 heads are better than 1. And when you grow a big following, you really don't, there's enough money to go around for everyone. So for larger brands, I would 100% get a team. But on the same time, there's a YouTuber who's got his company's worth $1 billion now. He's got hundreds of channels, all completely systematized. No one's on camera. It's all faceless. And they just churn out content like an unbelievable rate. It's like a content factory. So you don't actually need anyone on camera to get results here either. What you just need is a good story and topics that people are interested in.
Great advice. What's that channel, or what's that media?
There's a channel called the main channel is called Brightside. This is the 43rd biggest channel on YouTube, and then they have lots of other channels. I think they have 5 minute hacks. It's called. They've got lots of different channels, which I think are on Facebook. But yeah, it's insane what they do. It's like a video or 2 a day per channel. There's hundreds of them. The evaluation's gone over $1 billion, I think, for his company.
That's crazy, isn't it? But it's the new the new Fox, these are media properties now, aren't they? The fact that it's on YouTube doesn't make much difference when people are watching it on their TV anyway. You can start these media companies with very, very little cost to you, and those videos don't have to cost much. But it's like you said at the start, it's all about the storytelling. That's what's going to get those ad dollars being spent watching a Brightside video versus watching, Avatar or something like that. It completely blows the playing field open for everyone, really, doesn't it? This whole thing.
Yeah. I think it's very easy to find excuses. What you as businesses need to do if you really want to take on the YouTube beast is find some solutions. Yeah, I mean, here's the problems. How do we solve them? And there's solutions. They're just waiting for you.
Great stuff. Cool. I want to ask you about YouTube growth then. Obviously, this is the main thing that you talk about, how to grow on YouTube, and you've got some concepts which you're very well known for. one of them is understanding your viewer avatar or your YouTube avatar. A lot of marketers watching will have done something about target customers or profiling their target customer, but I wonder if some of this stuff might be slightly different when you're finding your YouTube avatar. So maybe you could talk us through the process that you use to find a channel's avatar.
It's the marketing, same thing. I focus heavily on psychographic and what I call internal struggle, which is a storytelling thing based around conflict. But let's scale it back. The reason I focus on this is because when I had the production company and the amount of companies we worked with, and they'd have marketing companies come in and they do an awful job, and all of them started in the same place: avatars. They went through our customer personas with us. We did that. I'm like, oh, cool, let's have a look. And then they never referenced it ever again. It was like they just ignored it. And it was like, yeah, we ticked that box, but that's boring. So now let's go and do something that these people don't care about at all. And I kept seeing this pattern over and over and over again, that it just got ignored. And I was like, surely you should have that like on your office wall, prime and center, because it's all about the people, right? So I'd always kind of known about it. And then I started to go a lot deeper on it, because in order to get a click on YouTube, it's nothing short of a miracle, if I'm honest, on the homepage, because you compete against, when you go on the homepage or one of your viewers goes on the homepage of YouTube, everything they love is shown to them at once. So it could be any creator and the things they are most interested in. So if they've just been researching, I don't know, they want to buy a new car, they go on the homepage, suddenly it's full of BMWs. It's like, now you've got to compete with the thing they're most interested in right now in this moment. How on earth do you do that? And for me, the only way you can ever really get that click is by understanding how to represent and package your content in a way that is more interesting than the things they are most interested in. And in order to do that, you have to obsess over what people are interested in and try and understand them. And interests generally go down to sort of a primeval, primeval? I think that's the wrong word of it. What word am I using for? It's instinct, right? So it's like, they're worried about themselves. They've got problems, they've got fears, they're things they're excited about, goals they want to achieve. So if you make content that really appeal to these things and package it in a way that sort of makes them curious as to how this content might help them with that problem or that goal, they're going to be more likely to click on it. So if you want to get a click, you kind of have to do that. Now, in the entertainment side of things, they go, the entertainment channels will do a video like, I bought a desert island. And it's like, well, that's interesting to anyone, right? It's super general. You think, well, and you bought a desert island, and there's a picture of them on the thumbnail, and they've got like a sold sign on the tiny little desert island in the sea. So, that doesn't necessarily appeal so much to fears or anything like that. It might be a goal of the viewer, but there's definitely an interest where people want to find out, they have questions like, how did they do it? Where is the island? So it still becomes about the viewer. They want to know something. They want to get something out of it. So that's why you kind of really need to focus on the avatars, is to understand not just like location, age, and sex. It's psychographic, which again, a lot of people do look at, but I think they don't come back to it enough. And this isn't just for YouTube. This is, if you ever want to stop someone scrolling anywhere, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, if you can build in some of these things into your hooks that your viewers are interested in, they're going to keep them, and promise them that by the end of the video, they're going to have that problem solved, or you're going to reveal the thing that they really care about, the thing that they clicked on, then that's the kind of winning formula. So it impacts titles, thumbnails, video ideas, introductions, storytelling, literally every step. And that's why I think it should be the first and most important thing for anyone in marketing, really.
So how do you go about finding the pain points which are going to resonate? There's going to be a Venn diagram, right? There's going to be sort of pain and fear and desire on this side, and then there's going to be topics that would make a good YouTube video, and then you're trying to find that kind of middle bit, aren't you? How do you go about doing that for a company? Let's make an example company. Let's go for someone like Blend Tech, right? I suppose they could go the curiosity angle. Would you only ever go the curiosity and the entertainment angle? Would you ever go for the kind of information angle with them?
No, I mean, if they make a video about, oh, here's how my blender works, no one's in a hurry to click that, are they? If that pops up on the homepage, nobody is clicking that. If they search for like the Blend Tech review, that's fine. But if it's like the Blend Tech review and I've just sat down to enjoy myself in the evening, I'm ignoring that. And that's what YouTube can't have. The danger of your content scaring someone off the platform, that's gone. The click-through rate drops and it's gone. So you just can't do that at all if you want to grow really fast, because that's where all the fastest views are. If you want to build it through search, that's fine. It's specific. It targets a problem, a query they have, and it's satisfying. Someone types in Blend Tech review, or is the Blend Tech better than this other blender? That's what they wanted to know. But yeah, you don't have a choice. It really depends where your videos are discovered, and that's often where the businesses go wrong as well. They're very search heavy. They make a lot of content, which is very top of the funnel. It's like get people when they're starting their search for a product, and that's fine. But then if you keep making videos one after the other that target search, the community don't come back, because the community gets shown your views on the homepage first on release as to be tested. And they see another really specific search-based video and they go, oh, that's not really an interest to me right now. So, yeah, a company like Blend Tech, or if you make products like that, you really got to try and find something more interesting. And Blend Tech was simple. It was just show, don't tell. Every video was a subliminal advert that was, look how powerful our blender is. It can blend a PlayStation. But everyone watching it got, oh, wow, will this blender be able to blend a PlayStation? And the satisfying thing at the end was they found out, yes, it did, or no, it didn't. And that's all people wanted to know deep down. So if you can find, and I think if you're an interior designer, it's a very simple way of creating that same sort of satisfaction. It would be document, the process of decorating someone's house, and then use a thumbnail that lets people see part of that, and then show them the thing at the very end they all came to see, which was the finished piece. But the story along the way is going to teach them everything and give them the education that's going to be useful. So yeah, I've forgotten your original question.
Well, I mean, it's kind of, I think it ties in. Someone's asked in the chat, what do you do if your industry is not that interesting to most people? And I think it's easy to dismiss Blend Tech blending a PlayStation and say, well, of course that was going to take off on YouTube. That's amazing. Lucky them, they're in the blender industry. But actually, the blender industry is extremely boring. Like, for the entire history of the blender industry, it's been incredibly boring. And then they figured out their hook and made it ridiculously interesting, right? You could say the same about the interiors thing, where you could say, well, interior design, like decorating, it's a bit boring. But actually, you could turn that into the most amazing show. Thinking of accounting, everyone always thinks of accountants or accounting being boring. But actually, if you were like investigating the craziest tax loopholes, or you were reverse engineering some incredible interesting financial scams, or this could actually be really, really addictive, couldn't it? So do you think that these sorts of angles exist for more markets than people would assume?
I reckon you could find it for everyone. I think if you have a boring industry, you have an advantage, because an exciting industry,
yes,
there's exciting content, right? If you have a boring industry that a lot of people, let's use accounting for an example, no offense, accountants.
They're used to it on this channel.
or even solicitors, right? Or, let's look at like psychologists or people who give relationship advice, things that might seem sort of like more everyday. Right now, there's millions of views waiting for you. Why, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard,
right?
That's lawyers. You should just be making videos about that. You come up with dramatic titles, like why Johnny Depp can't win this trial now. Oh, all the fans of the Johnny Depp thing, like, why can't he win it now? And then you say, you come up with a story that's relevant to that. And then you look at the accountants. They're going to be like, the real cost of divorce. And they put a picture of Johnny Depp on and Amber Heard crying. And then you got relationship advice, like why everyone loves Johnny Depp. Why relationships break down. So you just got to be on the lookout for interesting ways to position your content. And I think you're right. There's no such thing as a boring industry, because there's always a way to spin it to make it more interesting. It's just hard.
Right. Yeah. I think that's the competitive advantage, isn't it? I think we had a client that was they made ball bearings. It turns out that these ball bearings were everywhere, from NASA to Tesla. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more hooky product. It turns out ball bearings literally make the world go round. But yeah, you just got to find it. Okay, I wanted to touch on something that you've mentioned already, but I think it's easy to gloss over this. So I think there's two ways of getting views on YouTube, right? You've got the search focused stuff, which is basically SEO. So you're making a video for, I don't know, how to do VAT accounting or something like that, and that's often used by people who are getting their channels going, and it's quite a straightforward path, right? Because you can do your keyword research, and it's like writing a blog, and lots of businesses have written blogs. I think you advocate for a very different approach, though, which is the targeting recommended videos and sort of, I don't want to say clickbaity, but click attracting-y thumbnails and titles.
Right? Fine.
Right.
They are clickbaity. Look, there's different types, different levels of clickbait. One is very manipulative and it delivers content that has nothing to do with the title. My method is don't tell people what the video is about because they won't click on it, but make a title that's general and interesting and intriguing and maybe makes people think, what am I missing out on? Or what could this possibly teach me? That sounds interesting, which is a form of clickbait. But, you know, you've got to look at the argument and be like, well, if they learn something from it that changes their life, is that a bad thing? You know, if they laugh, if they enjoy it and go, can I watch another video? And then they binge the rest of your channel as a result of discovering one video that really intrigued them, but didn't tell them exactly what it was about. You know, and then that's the way it's going, because you can't tell people, you can't be specific if you want to get views on the homepage, because your specific video is never going to be more interesting than Mr. Beast or these creators who are spending millions on videos and have teams of 5 or 6 people working on their thumbnail to make it the most interesting possible. So you got to start with search, and the problem with it is it's the exact opposite of getting views on the homepage. There's lots of different places and there's lots of different strategies. My way is not the only way, but I like the homepage, and you have to sort of build your audience first before you can use it, because when you make a video, YouTube tests it with people mainly who have already watched your stuff before. So if no one's watched your stuff before, they're not likely to test it, and then they give it impressions. The bigger your audience gets, the more impressions you tend to get on release, so long as all the data kind of adds up. So you do need search first, but once you switch, you can't go in with a search-based title because it's the exact opposite. It's literally your video will die, your click-through rate, and you can see different traffic sources as they're known in the data. So you can see the click-through rate you get on the homepage, and you can see the click-through rate you get in browse. And if you look videos in search, if you look videos in search, will always have a very high click-through rate in search if they've ranked, but their video on the homepage will be like super low, like 0.5%. And then the opposite may occur too. Video click-through rate on the homepage might be very high, but it will kill it in search because it's not specific enough, and people want specific content when they're looking. And that's where people struggle, because writing what a video is about as a title is easy. Working out how to get a human to click on it, because they would never click on the video title if you said what it was about, requires a lot more thought.
Yeah.
So it's a different beast, and it's significantly more work.
Significantly more work, and presumably much higher risk, because this is if you make a video how to do tax accounting, you can be pretty sure you're going to get some traffic, right?
No. I'd say it's how to rank. People basically start via search because they look for keywords that have low competition and some search volume. Basically, what that's saying is I stand a chance here because it's not that competitive. In other words, the videos aren't going to be as good. Whereas on the homepage, there's a lot more good content. But there's still no guarantee you rank. What you can end up with is 0 views in any traffic source. So, it really is a case of just getting your community going. And that's why my channel grew so much faster, is because I stopped making videos for search. So it was 3 videos a week for search, got me to 8,000 subscribers in 18 months. 1 video every 2 weeks for the homepage got me 100 to 100. I don't know what I'm on that moment, 170,000 in the next 10 months. So the reward is much higher. The workload is much higher. The risk isn't that high because you can learn from the data and you can always tweak, but you need some community there to start with. Otherwise, it's very tough or slightly impossible. It's possible. I've seen a couple of channels do it with 1 or 2 videos and then just take off from there. But you really have to, they're very good at making content and they know the game already.
Right. So what's your process then today from the sort of, do you come up with an idea of a topic that you want to make and then you create the thumbnail and title first and work backwards, or how do you do it today?
So my process is kind of confusing. I don't want to make this too overwhelming. So I usually start problems that I think people have and then think, how could I package that in a way that they would click on it? And then how can I find a story to make that information more interesting? So the idea is, I have an idea and then I think, how do I make that? Is that relevant? Is that a problem that people care about? Then I write a lot of different versions of a title until I see one that I think, oh, that's an interesting spin on it. And then I'll make a thumbnail and then I'll start to plan the content. For my strategy, there's no point not coming up with the thumbnail and title first, because if you can't get a click, it doesn't matter how good your content is, it's not going to do anything. So I spend a lot of time, and that's another thing people struggle with. It's the thumbnail for search-based content can often take, half an hour, pretty easy, no thought. They just put the thing in the image that they're talking about. This strategy might require, I've spent a day before on just a title, and the video still did rubbish. So, but you learn from your mistakes. So yeah, then I'll go and write it and then I'll produce it and then I'll put it out. So there's a few steps, but you've got to give each one the right amount of time. If you write any of them off as not important, then generally the whole thing falls apart.
And how you mentioned at the start, then you're coming up with an idea of a problem that someone might have. How do you validate those, or do you just know your avatar so well that you don't need to because you've kind of internalized them?
So I don't know if I know my avatar so well. I think you asked earlier, like, how do you find them out? How do you build on them? And really, you discover them over time. First, you take an educated guess and then build on that. So I've taken my educated guess, and then what I've done is I've made lots of mistakes and made videos that didn't do very well, and then looked at it and gone, okay, why didn't my avatars like the idea of that video? Why didn't they click on it? Or why did they stop watching halfway through? And actually, those mistakes are great to learn from. So I use the data that I get given about my own content, and then I just go and look at like other people's channels and their view numbers and what the most popular content is. And if they've had a video in the last year do amazing, just look at the title and think, all right, why would my avatars click on that? What is it about that title that makes it interesting to them? What is it about that thumbnail image? So it's a constant discovery. And I think it would be crazy to say you can ever really get to know them like on, 100%. But I think it's really important to keep trying to discover more and more about them, because you just end up making way better videos that they'll enjoy more too. The more you can throw in that appeals to them, the more they're going to value it, really. And they really do appreciate the effort. I think that's second I started putting more effort in, people message thank you for the effort, because they don't want to be bored.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's interesting that sort of reaction seems to be most common on YouTube rather than other social channels. People just saying thank you for what you do. We're getting some in the comments here. People saying thank you to you. Okay, I've got one question. I just wanted sort of like a quick fire thing. So if I was going to ask you to rank each of these elements as success factors for a YouTube video or a YouTube channel, from 10 being absolutely super important, don't even consider bothering to wake up if you're not doing this well, and 0 being totally irrelevant, don't even think about it. So I'll just fire them at you and you just give your gut reaction on what you think they are. Sound good?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, 0 to 10, how important is the topic of your video?
Are we saying 10's important, sorry, or 1's important?
10 is super important, yeah.
I'm going to go for 9.
9, solid. Okay, Title?
8.
Oh, interesting. I'm surprised by that because of the importance of the clickbait. All right, thumbnail?
That's also 8. They come together. I can't split them up. We'll get rid of 7. In all honesty, topic, title, and thumbnail, for me, that is one unit that sits at number 1.
Got it. Okay. Presenter. How important presenter from 0 to 10?
What do you mean by how important is the presenter? Like who it is or how likable they are?
Let's do how likable they are.
I mean, that's really important. So, do you know what the problem with this whole thing is? Every one of these is important. I can't. Yeah, like it's so hard for me. Do you know I would say that this is again very important. Like I can't. Yeah. You know, once they've clicked, if they don't like the person, it don't work. So, can I make that 10 as well? Can I cheat here?
I think I've got some, Ed, that you won't rate as 10s.
Yeah, okay. Lighting? Okay, lighting can come down. The problem with lighting is it's like that is the thing that makes video look amazing. People who are so good at lighting can make the worst camera look incredible. So it's up in terms of production. It's definitely one of the top ones, the higher ones. So let's give that a 6.
Okay, solid. Sound?
I get 6 as well.
Yeah,
just because people don't tolerate bad sound.
Video resolution?
I put that low. It's as long as it's HD. You know, I'm gonna put that at the bottom of our list, I think.
All right. And super slick editing, choppy cuts, loads of B-roll.
Doesn't matter if the script's bad, really. It can make a script better, but really, and it's all about the writing and the story. Combine the editing with that, and it's an absolute, powerhouse. But putting more effort into bad content and just trying to have the editing cover it, it's not going to do that many favors. So editing is very important. I would say probably just below topic, title, and thumbnail, because if they don't click, the editing doesn't matter. But it's not video. And I think a lot of people think that editing is video and what makes it really good. It's just one part of it that adds a huge amount.
Yeah. Great stuff. Great stuff. Ed, thank you so much for your time today. This has been absolutely fascinating. And judging by the comments, the watchers and the listeners have enjoyed it as well. Where can people find more about you? And of course, where should they be subscribing?
The YouTube channel is just called Film Booth. So that's all you need, really. There's links to my website there and so on, which is just film-booth.com. But yeah, best place to start is just on the channel to see, and I talk about all the sort of things I've been talking about today in a slightly more charismatic way, probably. There's a lot more going on than me just talking.
And you got beautiful background and lighting as well on the channel.
Sometimes.
Great stuff. Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it.
No worries.